Hey everybody, welcome. Dr. Ben here. We're going to talk about something super exciting today. We're going to talk about stools and bowel movements. But for those of you that have experienced this or are experiencing this, it's actually pretty scary for a lot of people. So if you have had any blood in your stool or know anybody that's had blood in your stool, what does that actually mean? And what should you do about it? And some tricks that you can do for different types of gut issues. So welcome everybody. And functional medicine is really about getting to the underlying cause, the underlying why. And that's one of the things that we think about when we look at blood in the stool. And blood in the stool is not just something that you should slough off and go, oh, well, it's just a little blood today. You want to figure out what it is. And yet there's different types of blood, different colors of stool, different things that you're looking for, and when you should go get checked out and get a scope, get a scan, do some of those things, and then specific things that you're going to be able to do for ulcers, gastritis, diverticulitis, some of these different things. So here we go. If you've ever had blood in the stool and you go and you wipe or you drop toilet paper in there, yeah, go ahead. Hey, good to see you as well. Go ahead and drop down below where you guys are watching from. Love to see that. People all over the country, all over the world. If you've got any specific questions on that, go ahead and put those down below. So if you've looked into that stool and been like, oh geez, there's blood in there, that can be kind of a scary thing. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm bleeding out, or I've got cancer. Our brain can go to the worst case scenarios really quickly, right? Give me a thumbs up if you guys have ever gone to the worst case scenario. This is something that we can get pretty nervous about. But here's the thing: for the vast majority of people, if you see actual bright red fresh blood in your stool, it usually doesn't mean that you're bleeding out in your digestive tract or it's something way up and there's a huge bleed going on in there. If you see bright red blood in your stool, it usually is in the last 3 or 4 inches of your digestive tract. And so it could be a hemorrhoid, it could be a fissure, it could be something that's having a irritation and bleeding and then getting onto that bowel movement and going through. If it's up further into the colon, into the small intestine, it's going to coagulate by the time it gets down to that digestion and that bowel movement. And what would that look like? Well, it just looks like if you get a cut on your arm, what does that look like? So as that blood coagulates, it gets darker. So for many people, if they have a darker stool, if it's tarry looking, if it's black even, a little bit of red, but definitely getting into that darker scab type of a color, that's definitely more of a concern even than seeing some blood in the stool. If you have some actual bright red blood in the stool and it's there for multiple days, you probably want to call your doctor and get it checked out. You may have a hemorrhoid, you may have a fissure, but also look at the why. Why would somebody have a hemorrhoid? And a lot of times it's because there's the main thing is that the adrenals give our stress glands, they give tone to blood vessels. And if those blood vessels don't have the tone, those blood vessels are going to drop down to the anus and get irritated as you have that bowel movement. So hemorrhoids are actually a really good indication of some adrenal issues. So you've got to figure out the why, which is ultimately what functional medicine is all about. So then you look at the dark or tarry or black or any of those colors, and that's when there may be some damage further up. So that could be some type of an ulcer, some type of a colitis, diverticulitis, some of those things. If you haven't already and you're seeing that type of stool, it's worth getting checked out. You want to make sure that there's not some type of some cancerous agent in there, something going on that's causing problems in that digestive tract. So here's a few things that you can do right now if you've got any of these issues and help with. So a stomach ulcer, this is very common. We get burning in the stomach. Sometimes we think that it's part of reflux, but not necessarily, but definitely burning in the stomach. H. pylori, it's a bacteria, is the #1 cause for ulcers. So you've got to fix that why, you've got to do the kill off. But if you do have an ulcer, fermented foods are really good. So you can do some type of sauerkraut, kimchi, some things like that. But also cabbage juice. So if you have a juicer, you can do a little bit of apple or something like that, but throw a bunch of cabbage in there, green cabbage, and drink that cabbage juice. Very, very calming for the stomach ulcers. Gastritis, which is more of an inflammation of the stomach, inflammation of that upper GI, that's going to be more licorice and fennel are going to be the two main supplements and herbs that are going to be helpful for that. Licorice in a lot of forms, except those Twizzlers, that doesn't count as licorice. So you want to get, there's like little chewables, sucky ones, all types of different things that you can do to get that licorice down there. Diverticulitis, a lot of people have heard of diverticulitis or have had diverticulitis. One of the #1 things you can do with diverticulitis is bone broth on a regular basis. So Ancient Nutrition has a great one. You can use the powder, you can make your own. Whatever you want to do, get that bone broth in, very healing for that diverticulitis. Crohn's or IBS, this is going to be kind of that irritable bowel. It's just grumbling and going and irritated, and that's going to be slippery elm is going to be the best one for that Crohn's or irritable bowel syndrome. So slippery elm, you can get that in a powder, you can get that in pill form, but that kind of coats and soothes that digestive tract. And then ulcerative colitis, this one's pretty intense. Usually there's a huge stress component to ulcerative colitis. So stress management, get a brain map, do neurofeedback, calm that brain down as much as possible, but also omega-3s and probiotics are going to be huge for that. So again, if you're seeing blood in the stool, it matters what kind it is. If it's fresh, rich, ripe red blood, it's probably a hemorrhoid or a fissure, and you need to change what you're eating. You need to change how long you're sitting on the toilet, that pressure that's coming through there, get more fluids, more magnesium to make sure you're going regularly so it's not irritating on the way out. But if it's black, tarry, any type of darker color like that, that's further up, and there's a big concern that there is some damage there. So it's probably not a bad idea to at least do a consultation with your practitioner, whether that's a GI or your primary, and possibly do a scope to see what's going on in there. And again, there are specific things that you can do nutritionally for those different ones. So hope that helps you guys. If you know anybody that's having bowel issues, anything like that, like or share this with as many people as you can. Kind of a sensitive topic, but it's very, very important to help figure out what is actually going on. Make it a great day, everybody.